And Councilman Shields, we're going to start with proclamations.
Will the group from the Jewish Federation and other, Jeff Cohen and others, please come up? This is for Gilad Shalit. And this is a little bit of an unusual resolution in City Council today, in that we are about to confer honorary citizenship. And come on in around the poster so Gilad can be with some company here. Come on up, all of you. Come on in here. Good morning. Good day. Gilad Shalit is just an ordinary person just like you and I, who grew up in a family and began his life, and like a lot of people in this world, ended up serving their country in their armed forces. In this case, Gilad Shalit was a member of the Israeli Defense Forces. And one of the bargains we make in this world, as horrible as war is that long ago it was well settled amongst humane peoples that soldiers are to be treated in a certain way in war, largely because they're really blameless. They're caught up in events of political and global nature that are well beyond their control. And so, as a result, we have the Geneva Convention and a host of other protections through the UN and just as a custom to treat prisoners of war with some dignity and to allow them access to support systems like the International Red Cross. In this case, as you'll hear in the proclamation, that didn't occur. This is one human being, and no matter where they are in the world, they deserve respect. And I personally don't care what the politics are. It's about someone reaching out and a cry for help. In the community, particularly here in Pittsburgh, the Jewish community, cities like New Orleans and others have done similarly to bring attention to this one individual, just one person, taking time. And that's a tremendous display of our humanity because we care about one another and because that we do respect that level of respect for human life and human beings, no matter what the situation is. So let me read this resolution. Whereas on Sunday, on June 25, 2011, marked the 5th anniversary of the kidnapping of an Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit, in a cross-border raid on the Israeli side of the Gaza Strip. And whereas since the capture of Gilad Shalit, a dual Israeli-French citizen who was serving in the Israeli Defense Forces Armored Corps, was severely injured in a raid, Hamas has refused to allow Gilad to communicate directly with his family or to receive consular visits or visits from the International Committee of the Red Cross to ensure his humane treatment at the hands of his captors, a violation of international and humanitarian law. And whereas a United Nations fact-finding mission overseen by Judge Richard Goldstone issued a report on September 2009 explicitly calling for his release, and in spite of diplomatic pressure and gestures of solidarity around the world, Gilad Shalit continues to be held captive by Hamas, a terrorist group. In addition, the 2011 G8 Deauville Declaration has demanded the release of Shalit. Whereas, in spite of support from governments, organizations, human rights groups, and religious institutions coming together in a broad-based appeal for his release, and in spite of the Israeli government's offers to release hundreds of jailed terrorists in exchange for Gilad Shalit, Hamas refuses to return him to his suffering family. And whereas Gilad's story brings a human element and a personal face to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it must remain at the forefront as the global community strives to achieve peace in the Middle East. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh will join Paris, France, Rome, Italy, Miami, Florida, New Orleans, Louisiana, and Baltimore, Maryland in embracing Gilad Shalit as an honorary citizen in hopes of bringing attention to his plight. In addition, the Council of the City of Pittsburgh stands solemnly in solidarity with parents Noam and Aviva Shalit and siblings Yoel and Hadass in their advocacy for his life and timely freedom. Be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby bestow an honorary citizenship upon Gilad Shalit in order to communicate an international solidarity to his captors and to hasten his release. I'd like to make that a motion.
Motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. That was probably one of the longest applauses we've ever gotten for a resolution here, and certainly this is a very special one. As I said, it doesn't matter who we are or what we are. We can never forget our humanity. That lesson's taught over and over again in the Jewish community because of the sufferings that they have endured over the millenniums, I should say. But if Jeff, you want to, Jeff, you want to come up and speak? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Come on over here and say a few words.
Thank you, Councilman, very much. As the chair-elect of the Jewish Federation of Pittsburgh, and on behalf of our entire community, I want to thank the entire City Council, Councilman Shields, his staff, his executive assistant, Lynette Letterman, for making this proclamation possible. This proclamation, as Councilman Shields so eloquently read it, is truly significant because we in Pittsburgh are only one of a handful of cities to have made Gilad an honorary citizen. It has been more than 5 years since Gilad Shalit was kidnapped. His plight weighs heavily on all peoples of goodwill, for it is really a humanitarian issue, one that transcends religion, nationality, or ethnicity, as Councilman Shields said. It is truly one of humanitarian issues. We look forward to the day of welcoming Gilad home and to welcoming him here to our fair city as a citizen of Pittsburgh and allowing him to greet you and thank you himself in person in this august chamber. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce one of the people who has led the effort and been so instrumental in the collective consciousness of keeping Gilad's situation at the forefront. Lori Zions, the chair of our Israel Advocacy for our Community Relations Council, will tell us all more about Gilad.
On behalf of the Community Relations Council of the United Jewish Federation, I would like to thank the City Council, the Mayor, and the people of Pittsburgh for granting honorary citizenship to Gilad Shalit. Stop for a moment and think what you did on your 25th birthday. You might have gone to a bar or to a ball game. You might have had dinner with friends or loved ones. You probably received a present or two, and certainly some birthday cards. Gilad Shalit turned 25 on Sunday. He spent his 25th birthday in a dark hole somewhere in the Gaza Strip, unable to communicate with or receive communications from his parents, his siblings, indeed from anyone in the outside world. This has been Gilad Shalit's plight every single day for more than 5 years. His captors in Hamas have not even allowed the Red Cross to visit him. We shudder at the thought of the terrible conditions he is forced to endure. The ironies are bitter. Gilad was abducted while on routine patrol in Israel during a period of calm near an open border crossing called the Gateway of Peace. When Gilad was only 11, he wrote a short illustrated story for his 5th grade class, a story describing a shark and a fish who put aside their hostility for each other and became close friends. This is the young man who was ripped away from his family, his friends, and his community. I can speak for the Jewish Federation, and indeed for the entire Jewish community of Pittsburgh, when I say we are deeply grateful to City Councilman Doug Shields and the entire City Council for making Gilad an honorary citizen of Pittsburgh. It is a tremendous gesture to call attention to this humanitarian issue. Thank you so very much. Gilad's parents and his siblings, who have suffered tremendously during this long ordeal, have been informed of what's happening here in Pittsburgh this morning. We can only hope that they find at least a small measure of comfort because of our actions here. The photo you see is an artistic interpretation of how Gilad appeared in a brief video that Hamas released almost 2 years ago. The Hebrew handwriting that you see in the upper right-hand corner is Gilad's own handwriting. The word is chatzilu, which translates to save me. He wrote that at the end of a note he was able to send to his family 4 years ago. The Federation's Community Relations Council has waged a persistent campaign to increase awareness about Gilad's plight. Most recently, the CRC collaborated with J-Film, the Pittsburgh Jewish Film Forum, on a special screening of the new documentary, Family in Captivity, which chronicles the tireless efforts of Gilad's family to obtain his freedom. Last year, CRC Director Jeffrey Cohen arranged for an informal meeting between Gilad's father Noam and Bishop David Zubik, the head of Pittsburgh's 800,000-person Catholic diocese, during Bishop Zubik's visit to Jerusalem with a delegation of Pittsburgh Jews and Catholics. CRC is also promoting the What Gilad Missed program campaign of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, urging Pittsburghers to visit www.whatgiladmissed.org and engage in the suggested action items found there. It has been over 5 years since Gilad has tasted freedom and been embraced by his family and his friends. I am proud that Pittsburgh City Council has chosen to recognize and honor Gilad by making his plight known to a wider audience. I look forward to the day when we can welcome Gilad Shalit to Pittsburgh in peace and in freedom. As we all know, Gilad won't be a true Pittsburgher until he attends his first Steeler game. Let's hope and pray that happens very soon. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Ainsman, and I am the chair of the Community Relations Council for the Jewish Federation of Pittsburgh. There are cultures throughout the world that celebrate life. These cultures cherish their children, raise them to be the best possible people, try to educate them, try to make them into the type of people that will also have families and also continue that chain indefinitely, forever. The United States of America is such a culture. From the time babies are born until they become very elderly, our society is dedicated to celebrating their lives, to creating human beings that are the best human beings that they could possibly be. Israel is another such society that celebrates the culture of life. Israeli children are highly educated in school. They learn the values of their culture, but there is a very large difference about what happens to Israeli children when they graduate from high school. When Israeli children graduate from high school, both boys and girls are required to enter the armed forces. There are some exemptions, but all are required to enter the armed forces. That means that 18-year-old children, 19-year-old children, 20-year-old children are now adults. It means that they confront an enemy that is dedicated to the destruction of their country and to the destruction of their people. This is a very high calling. Galit is a product of that life. At the time that he was captured, and when he was captured, he was in Israel, he was not in Gaza. He was doing what Israeli Jews have been doing since the country was founded in 1948. He was guarding its borders. And when Hamas terrorists suddenly appeared and killed 2 of his companions, they captured him, and indeed they threw him into a hole. It's 5 years later. His parents have not been able to communicate with him. There has been one video that Hamas created. Galit was in it, and it was about 2+ years ago that occurred. There is no indication that Galit is alive today. There is hope that Galit is alive today. And based on that hope, the Israeli people, and most of all Galit's family, have constantly attempted to attain his release. It is my understanding that over 1,000 terrorist prisoners have been offered in exchange for this one soldier, and that has been declined. There have been negotiations on and off. Nothing has borne fruit. As Lori has indicated, Galit was not only captured, he was isolated. The crime against Galit is a crime against everyone that lives in a culture that celebrates life. It's an outrage. It's an outrage that we must organize and fight against. It gives me tremendous pride as a Pittsburgher, as an American, as a Jew, as a supporter of Israel, and a supporter of all cultures that celebrate life around the world, that Pittsburgh has bestowed this honor on Galit, on his family, and on all of us that celebrate the sanctity of life. Thank you.
Also, I'd like to ask the children that are here in support of Galit from the Hillel, I got mixed up. Hillel Academy, the boys and girls, if you'd still stand and rise, please, in recognition. Thank you. And I'm sure these kids realize how important it is to be here, and it's part of that growing up process, you know, leaving the toys behind and starting to take those responsible position in our community. And it's also important for us older folks to recognize that the children are our future. The children are the ones that we ask to get into harm's way. And I'm really proud to see all of you here today to speak out in support of Galit and to seek justice for human beings. That's very, very important. Thank you all for coming. Would you like to get them up for a photograph? Anybody wishing to join for the photograph from the groups, if you want to come up, we'll fill up the back of the room. But come on up if you want to be a part of this, and we can send it back, get it in the Jerusalem Post, and make some noise. Come on, if you want to come up and stand with us. Come on up and scoot around. You'll have to unlock the door there. Come on around this way. Good traffic. I swear. Come on, look at it.
Maybe he should have been. Doug. Councilman Shields. Why don't you try
boys come behind.
I can still take a few up here. Okay, maybe the tall one can come over there. Going in.
Thank you. Just gonna go here, okay? Okay.
A lot of us. What?
Just like in our face. Just pretend we're not here. Okay, just so you know.
I'm looking at that, worried.
You know, well, there's like a shadow line here. I guess serves, yeah.
My brother was making noises.
That would not have been somebody. I know, because this is a court.
With who? With Gilad?
That was nice. Hey, Doug.
Yeah, I call myself smart movement.
Okay. Okay, Councilman Shields, you have another proclamation?
Yes, we do. It's fall's coming our way. Mr. Peduto heard its footsteps the other night, I heard. Quietly creeping in. Like a cat rubbing up against the window. Was it T.S. Eliot, the love song of A.J. Prufrock? You remember that? Yeah. Well, Nan Krasinski and the Pittsburgh Irish Fest folks. Where were you? I know you were here. There you are. Couldn't find you. Come on up. It's Pittsburgh Irish Festival time as well. Something a little more, with a little levity here. Come on in. Oh, I forgot. He drifts over there. This is the well. Great. Well, every year, how many years is it? 20, 21. I was going to say, geez, oh man. I remember when this first started, a glimmer of an idea has borne great entertainment and cultural awareness and whatnot, and just general good time fol-de-rol. And merriment. This young lady here started the Pittsburgh Irish Festival with Mara. They live in Squirrel Hill, right on Darlington. And sisters, too. The Loud Sisters, we call them. I remember when it first was getting going, and you talked to Bob O'Connor a little bit about it, and we brought you into the chamber and so forth, but this festival's turned into quite a flea, having a good time. It runs from Friday, September the 9th, through Sunday, September the 11th. That's my sister's birthday. Hope my brother Darby will be in from L.A. that weekend. We're trying to get him here, and I said we're going to go hit the fest. He's very good friends with Gaelic Storm. They hang out in L.A. once in a while. And I remember when you first brought them here, they were a sensation. Gaelic Storm is a group performing. They were in the Titanic. They played the band in the steerage with the Irish peasantry on that ill-fated journey. But the Irish Festival is a nonprofit corporation that's been here for some time to promote cultural awareness and charitable works. And I'm going to read this proclamation. I hope everybody in Pittsburgh that showed up for the St. Patrick's Day Parade will double up this year and come on down to the Pittsburgh Irish Festival. Whereas the Pittsburgh Irish Festival, Inc. is a nonprofit corporation created to contribute to the rich cultural awareness of Irish history and tradition that exists in Pittsburgh. And whereas the Pittsburgh Irish Festival has expanded into a year-round resource for education and cultural programs through the creation of the Irish Education Outreach Program, whose primary objective is to create a higher awareness of the ethnic richness and significance of the Irish and Irish American culture.